Hi, welcome to another Teen Pride Book Talk. My name is Lucy, and this is the program on AADL TV, where each episode I take a few minutes to talk about a young adult book that is both inclusive of and representative of folks in the LGBTQIA plus community. And the book that I would like to tell you about today is called By Any Means Necessary, and this is by Candice Montgomery. By Any Means Necessary is the story of a teen named Tori. He is just beginning his first year of college. He's the main character, and he is the person telling us the story. He narrates it to us, which is a really interesting narrative voice. And because of that, he breaks the fourth wall occasionally and really directs us as readers. I'll share a little bit more about that later, but that was one of the really interesting parts of this book. So Tori has left behind his home in Los Angeles, and he has just started his freshman year, just finished orientation at San Francisco State University. Right as he walks in his dorm room and prepares to put down his stuff, he gets a phone call from his Aunt Lisa. This is who he's been living with in Los Angeles. She tells him that the apiary that Tori owns is about to be put on sale. So now Tori has just arrived in San Francisco, and he's presented with this problem at home. And he can't decide, do I stay here at this school or do I go home? As Tori says, so here we are, jump cut to me, standing just over the threshold of my new home, my new dorm room at college, duffel heavy on my back, phone to my head, as my Auntie Lisa yells in my ear. So there's a lot to unpack just in that little bit I shared with you. First of all, why does Tori own an apiary? His Uncle Miles owned an apiary, and when Miles died, he gave it to Tori. And so this is something that Tori has been running, but also is something that is Tori's connection to one of his favorite people. Tori currently lives with Lisa and his grandfather, Theo. He is not close to Theo. Theo is unkind, and Theo is extremely vocally homophobic. Tori is gay, which Theo knows, but that does not keep him from constantly making these comments. Miles was one of the first people that Tori came out to, and that is part of the connection that he felt with Miles. It's a big responsibility for a teenager to own and operate an apiary, and Tori does a great job. He really brings it out into the community. He goes to schools. He has school groups come in to learn about bees. So for him, it's about more than just making honey, but he also wants to have something for himself, and this is school. He's met his roommate through email and social media connections over the summer, his roommate Desh. He has a group of friends who he calls Cake, which is the first initials of all four of their names. They are these 4 STEM girls, and he has befriended them before the semester even starts. They are wonderful characters. They're a group of smart Black girls. They're complicated. Each one is unique from each other, but they all are all part of this group, this STEM group, and they play a very central part in this story, as does Dash, Tori's roommate, who is very low-key, very laid-back. He's a great character. And then there is a character named Gabriel, who is someone that Tori knew earlier in his life in Los Angeles. Gabriel used to go by the name of London, and they were very, very close friends and beginning to get romantically involved. And then Gabriel and his family left, and he didn't really tell Tori where he was going, so that's the feeling that was left with him. All of a sudden, he's putting things on social media about where he's going to school, and he starts getting messages from Gabriel. And it turns out that Gabriel also happens to be at San Francisco State University. So Tori is faced with this new group of friends that he really likes, this boy that he might be able to reconnect with, and then going back and being this responsible person in his family, but also not letting his grandfather win by selling the land out from under him with his apiary, and really connecting still to Uncle Miles. A lot of the reason that the apiary has to be sold is that bills just haven't been paid. In an author interview, Candice Montgomery described Tori as being torn between taking on this new thing that's only about Tori, and also maybe a little about a certain dancer boy named Gabriel, and going home to a place that's chewed him up raw, all to save his uncle's legacy. And part of why that area in Los Angeles has chewed Tori up raw is that he has been growing up as Black boy. And he is living in an area now in Los Angeles that is becoming gentrified. That's the sale of the apiary. And gentrification is a big piece of this book. When Tori starts to talk to his friends about his situation in Los Angeles and his apiary, he really starts to explain to us, the readers, exactly how his neighborhood and others have become gentrified. And he's so good at doing that. He's got such a strong narrative voice, and he's funny, and he's constantly giving us, the reader, these asides, so that when he's talking about gentrification, he really does this wonderful job of explaining carefully how it is about systemic oppression. And he just keeps relating it back to that. And then that goes back to his growing up, and part of why he lived in an area that, as the author said, chewed him up raw. Tori says at the beginning of the second chapter, "There are a lot of things I need to worry about in life, like as a Black male teen. A lot of things I have to worry about separately as a teen, and again as a male, and then further still as a Black person." Confusing, right? Well, try being me. When you combine those separate parts, apparently I am lethal. I am a problem. But on the list of things I didn't ever think I'd need to worry about was my safe space being snatched right out of my bony-ass dark fingers by the quote-unquote city of angels. So that's just a really interesting short paragraph that shows you the juxtaposition and conflicting pieces of Tori's life there, what it has been like growing up as a Black teen, but then also how this one place, this place that his Uncle Miles gave him, is his safe space. At school, Tori can remove himself from that connection and the responsibility of what his uncle left him and become himself. The reconnection that he makes with Gabriel, who is Afro-Brazilian and is an incredible dancer, and there's some really nice writing in here about the scenes where Gabriel's dancing for Tori. They have a great connection right from the beginning because they already knew each other. There's some flirting that's fun to read about. A lot of it happens over texts, but there's not a lot of conflict in their relationship, which is really nice as a reader to read about a strong, supportive relationship, but also to know that for Tori, this is something that he has. And so in addition to being about gentrification and being about homophobia, this book is also about self-care. When you decide to take the steps towards self-care, realizing that it is such an important part of your growing up and your preservation. This book also demonstrates pieces of effective social justice change and the ways in which college students gather and connect and use protest effectively. One of the reasons why I think By Any Means Necessary is such a good book is that there are powerful things brought up in this book, both on a micro level, just the relationship between Gabriel and Tori, the relationships that Tori has with his family, but then on these macro levels as well, piece about gentrification, anti-Black racism, homophobia, and then this big piece about balancing self-care and family. And what do you do if it is the family that is keeping you from being able to move into the place of self-care? And then there's this intersection that Tori exists at, being both gay and Black, and he shows us how these things are interconnected for him. And if all those seem like very weighty issues, they are big issues, but on the other side of that, you have Tori telling you the story. And I can't tell you how much I enjoyed his voice. It's so different from anything I read. He's very funny, he's self-deprecating, he is quick to turn aside and tell the reader something or comment to us. And because of that, I think you really feel connected to Tori. The fact that his voice is so present is something that really draws you in to the story. On top of that, there are all these other wonderful characters in the book that support Tori and add other layers to the story as well. So if it sounds like there was a lot packed into this book, there was, but it reads quickly, and I can't emphasize enough how much I enjoyed hearing Tori's story from him directly. So if you want to pick up a book told in a very different way, I would recommend that you try By Any Means Necessary by Candice Montgomery. Thanks for joining me.